morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Monday live Q&A. If you've been coming here for a while, you know how it works, but if you are new here, I'll just pretty much tell you the whole situation. What happens is super easy. You come with your plant questions, we come with the answers. All you need to do is just comment it below, whatever problem you're dealing with. If it's something that maybe a plant is not doing as well, or maybe you're just curious about something. Maybe you want to know more about a specific tree, or you're trying to find the right feature tree for your front garden. Anything at all you need to do is comment it below, and I'm going to ask Chris here and he will answer it for you. He has decades and decades of gardening knowledge and experience, so he's definitely the right person to be asking. And we normally run this for about 30 minutes, but I think we're going to do a little bit of a longer session today because we're finding that we actually can't get to everyone's questions, unfortunately, and we really want to try and help as many people as we can. So we're actually doing a bit more of an extended live, and if it goes well, we might keep it up. So it's really up to you guys to, bring the questions, and then we can hopefully get to everyone's questions today. How are you doing today, Chris?
Great, thanks. I've had an interesting morning. What it is, a couple of sort of complex garden designs that I've done. I went down to Geelong, and then I came back up near here and helped the landscaper lay out the garden so that they're all working properly. Made a few adjustments and things like that. And it was kind of very interesting and satisfying to see designs that I've done being laid out and being put into practice. So I've had quite an interesting morning. It's good being on the other side of, there's one thing to design it, there's another thing to actually have it working and put it into action. So it was enjoyable. Yeah,
amazing. All right, so if everyone could just please let me know if you can hear us okay. Just let us know if our levels are good, just like a thumbs up or anything. If you could just comment just to make sure that you guys are all hearing us okay. Obviously that's very important. And perfect. All right, let's hop right into it with Pickling Spirit's question. What is a good native compact tree that is good for coverage, so screening, but also not too tall? It's under a power line.
Okay, I'm really keen on the Banksia Sentinel. And I like the Banksia Sentinel because it's a sort of a very, very compact evergreen native. It has some nice Banksia flowers on it. But what I find is Banksias are very, very trimmable. So I did a garden design yesterday, and we didn't want the tree to grow more than 2.5-3 meters, and we didn't want it to get much more than 1 meter wide. And a Banksia Sentinel with a little bit, Banksia Sentinel is going to grow a bit bigger than that, but with a bit of a trim, it can be maintained at that size forever. And this guy can have exactly the right size tree. So that's the Banksia, and very, very hardy. That particular job was into sort of poor sandy soil in Frankston, and the Banksia Sentinel will thrive where other trees might struggle.
Amazing. And then Glenn would like to know, what are your thoughts on Don Burke? And if you don't know who Don Burke is,
Don Burke, very talented guy, very interesting guy, but where he's different to me, like him and I have a fundamental difference, is that he'll pick up a plant and say, look, this is the only and best camellia in the world, and all other camellias are terrible, or this is really, like he said that evergreen alders were absolutely terrible and everybody used to plant them. And do you know that evergreen alders are one of the best plants in the whole world? They really are. They're fantastic, but they do have a downside. They've got very aggressive roots, and there's various reasons why you shouldn't put them in certain places. So where I tend to, I think the word might be a bit more pragmatic than him, in that I'll look at evergreen alders and say, well, look, they do have very aggressive roots, but they have this amazing wind hardiness and all these other sorts of things. Whereas he destroyed the whole production of evergreen alders, which were a great asset to people's gardens. So he tends to polarize and say, this is good, this is terrible. Whereas I tend to say, this is good for that, and this is good for that, and this is a bit of a weed, but geez, you've been in a bit of a corner, it's a great thing to use. So I tend to find the good in most things, and I don't sort of polarize things and make things good or bad.
Yeah, interesting. All right, our next question is, I have 2 rose plants 4 feet in my garden. For new fencing, we have to take them out. How can we save them?
Okay, look, that's a tough situation. Roses are highly transplantable. If you dig them up with a bit of root in winter when they've naturally defoliated, they're really tough. You could sort of just about play footy with them, as you're moving them. But if you dig them in leaf, and I've tried to get away with it and I've failed every time. If you dig them in leaf when they're growing, they're dead in a day or two, and that's it. So the problem is that you would have to delay your fence construction till probably June, and then they'd be transplantable. And I guess, there is no real other way to save them. And if they have particular sentimental, but some roses have sentimental value, some roses are rare and you can't get them anymore. You're just going to have to wait till winter to transplant them, and doing it now, there is no way you can do it.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Next question. You named a blue drought-resistant ground cover Starts MC. Can you remind its name and how to take care of it? Does that ring any bells? Blue, drought-resistant, it's a ground cover. Was that the Lithodoria? Graceward?
No, that's a beautiful blue ground cover, but not particularly drought resistant. Let me think of drought resistant ground covers.
Starts with M or starts with C or MC?
Yeah, look, the only thing that's sort of silvery blue thing that I can think of is your chalk stick. But great drought resistant ground covers.
Oh, it starts with the letter C. Yeah, it starts with letter C. Convolvulus? I don't know if they're drought resistant though.
Carpogrotis.
But
Carpogrotis I've recently started propagating one which is a beautiful pale yellow and turns a bit pink, and then the one that's normally around is a vivid purpley pink.
Okay.
So that could be it.
So
I think Carpogrotis, Australian native, and really, really tough. You could just poke a bit on the top of a sand dune and it would cover the sand dune one day. Like really dry, hot, doesn't matter. Carpogrotis will cover it. So super low maintenance, super tough, super easy to grow.
Yep, perfect. All right, moving on to the next question. We wanted to find out about how to maintain Dichondra repens. We are planning to use it as a replacement for grass in our front garden.
Right, okay. The main thing that you have to overcome with Dichondra repens is the weed competition while it's spreading. Now, I guess what you could do is you could spray all your grass with Roundup and make sure you kill everything, and then you could dig off get rid of the old grass and maybe cover it with some sterile soil. Or you could use, there's fabrics that you can buy, there's like hemp matting and things like that you can buy. They use it for riverbanks and things like that. And what this is how I would actually do it. I'd kill my grass. I'd get some thin hemp matting, the sort of thing that the government puts on riverbanks and that when they're doing, doing bridges on, building construction on a riverbank. I'd use some hemp matting, and then I'd use some good clean sterile potting mix, and I'd cover it with an inch or two of that, and then I'd put nice little plants on it. Like you can even buy 6-inch pots and chop them up into nice little pieces. And then I'd plant the plants at the rate of about 16 plants per square metre. So you need a lot of plants. So chopping up a big plant into little pieces is a good idea. So basically, and then what would happen is, and you would do it at this time of year, because what Dichondra loves, it loves heat, it loves water, it loves lots of fertilizer, it loves good soil. So So if you give it all that, it grows crazy. Like I noticed, we're potting lots of it at the moment, and it seems to we put a little piece in a pot and it fills it in about 3 weeks. So basically now, and as you move into summer, plenty of water, plenty of fertilizer, and maybe some hemp weed mat or really good weed control, and 16 pieces per square metre. And you'll be in
Amazing.
business.
Wendy has a smoke bush that after winter leaf came back from the top. Will the leaf continue down? So it came
There'll
back
be
on the top, but
Yeah, there'll be shoots and things down low, and I think given time it will, and probably a bit of fertiliser, plenty of water in summer, and you'll start to get some shoots at the base.
cool. Ivan is having trouble growing fishbone fern. It always dies on me. Am I watering it too much?
Gee, fishbone fern's sometimes considered a weed, and if it's always dying, I wonder if you're growing it in the right spot. Fishbone fern loves the shade, it loves good soil, so if I wanted fishbone fern to go crazy, and normally put it in the right spot, it just goes crazy like mint or something like that, really fast and easy to grow. So I'd be making sure my soil was nice and lots of organic matter in it. With ferns, you don't use large amounts of fertiliser, you just use a tiniest sprinkling, say, of Osmocote, and not too much Osmocote. Beautiful soil, like you can mix some potting mix through hungry normal soil, a little bit of Osmocote, and then keep it moist. But I doubt that you could overwater it. It would take a lot of water. It would only be if there was a severe drainage problem. So I don't think it's overwatering. I think more likely it's lack of good soil and lack of water, and maybe lack of a tiny bit of fertiliser. Like I'd say it's more of a lack than an overdoing the water, unless it's a swampy spot, because those ferns can take a mountain of water.
Perfect. All right. Next question is from Paulina. Are we at the Sydney markets?
No,
we
don't.
We're only based in Melbourne.
We do ship to Sydney though.
True.
Like, yeah, lots of people buy it, but the problem that we've got is that you have to pay for a whole pallet. Like the trucking companies want you to fill a whole pallet. So so you can buy online with us, you can buy over the phone, but we're really only good value if you need a lot of plants, and we can fill up a pallet or two of plants, and then you'll find that we're very, very competitive. But if we ship 1 or 2 or 3 plants, the problem is we do little tiny plants. We do post plants up into Sydney and Queensland, so little tiny plants, but the postage tends to be very expensive, and it's only really kind of a good. But maybe if there was something rare you couldn't buy in Sydney, because Melbourne does have a much better nursery industry than Sydney. I mean, that's a bit of a controversial thing to say, but we have better prices, we have a bigger range of plants, and we have better quality plants. It's basically it's the nursery capital of Australia. The only competition we've got is in southeastern Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. There's a very good nursery area there, but Victoria's even better than that. Like Victoria's the best nursery.
Almost as controversial as whether Melbourne or Sydney's better.
Yeah,
the eternal debate amongst Aussies.
And I hope one day to be shipping into Sydney, but at the moment we're only doing it in big lots. And so often people come to us for a whole garden lot in Sydney, but when you just want a few plants, it's probably best to get them in Sydney, or if it's something really rare that you can't buy in Sydney, then post it up.
Yeah, awesome. All right, next question is from Joey. Can we plant a pink rubber plant outside, also from Sydney?
Yes, you can. I'd put it in a bit of a sheltered spot. What I've noticed is that the pink ones seem to be a bit more susceptible to kind of like getting marks on the leaves and things like that than the other ones. So I'd put it outside, but in a bit of a sheltered spot.
Cool. All right, next one is from Cherries. I have a southeast facing driveway. What evergreen small tree might be suitable to plant along that fence line that is about 10 metres long by 0.5 metres wide?
0.5 metres. You could plant Sasanqua camellias, or Michelia figo, which is that lovely fragrant little magnolia with fine foliage in a nice narrow spot like that. Yeah, I think Michelia figo or Sasanqua camellias would both, with very little sun, would both be very happy in a narrow little bed like that. For both of those, you'd want to work the soil up well, mix in a bit of potting mix, fertilizer, water, everything like that, and you'd find them thriving in that cool southerly position.
Great. Sandra wants to know if a forest pansy works as both a privacy and feature tree, and also what can they plant underneath?
Okay, love forest pansies. They need fabulous soil, and they need to be in a little bit of a sheltered spot. If you've got a really open situation that's being battered by severe winds, put the forest pansy somewhere else. Don't stick it. So good soil and a little bit sheltered from a little bit of an enclosed or sheltered spot, and with that lovely purple, I think something silver like a licorice, and I've got a nice photo of licorice sort of clipped into a nice flat sort of a display on the website. So something like a licorice or a kaleidoscope would give you a fabulous contrast, or if you preferred a green contrast, a lemon lime nandina would be really nice, because that's sort of a really bright. They're all ones you could Google and look at. So kaleidoscope, licorice, or lemon lime nandina. I wouldn't use all of them, but any one of those would be really good to put around your forest pansy. And say, for instance, you did have a really windy exposed spot and you wanted the colour of a forest pansy but weren't going to put the forest pansy out in a super windy spot, you could go for something like a Prunus nigra. It's a plant that's sort of old-fashioned and a bit overlooked, but it gives you that great colour in a difficult site that a forest pansy won't give you in that difficult site.
And we did a really good video on it recently, so if you go on our socials, or easier, just search up on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, we show what it looks like in spring and in the summer with really, really beautiful blossoms and then beautiful foliage. Okay, next question, which you've kind of already answered, but I'm just going to ask it anyways, from Simon. Camellia as a hedge in a part sunny and narrow spot, which is pretty much what we were doing just the one before this.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, are there any alternative recommendations less than 1 meter?
Okay, so I have, these days a lot of people are building big 2-story houses side by side, and they've got these narrow shady spots, and kind of every second garden design I'm doing that's like that, I do Sasanqua camellias, and then every other garden design where it may be a little bit narrow, not enough room, or they want a different style or something like that, I recommend Chinese star jasmine. Now what's wrong with Chinese star jasmine is that in that narrow spot you're going to have to put some wire or trellis or something up there, maybe some wire mesh, put something up and have it out from the fence a little bit so that it can weave in and out and go up like that. But Chinese star jasmine is Sasanqua is great for that shady spot where you want to, and they clip really well and you can keep them really nice and narrow, and you've got lovely flowers in autumn and spring, autumn and winter, sorry. But so Sasanqua works great, and Chinese star jasmine works really, really good, particularly if it's just too narrow even for a camellia.
Cool. All right, next question is from In Leah's World. What hedging plant would you recommend to plant under the canopy of a big gum tree? About 3 meters is nice.
Okay, 3 meters is pretty tough, but okay, so you're going to have to give it plenty of water and fertilizer and cultivate the ground up a little bit. But I would use sweet viburnum. Sweet viburnum is really, really good when it's in the shade and when it's in competition with another tree. But say you're doing a big long hedge and there was a tree in the middle and you had a hedge on either side, the hedge in the middle is going to need more water and more fertilizer than the hedge that's away from the gum tree. So you've got to kind of feed the gum tree and the sweet viburnum, and the gum tree is going to get the nutrients and water first. So you've really got to pump it in there in that area where you've got the competition, because gum trees are very, very good at taking water and nutrients.
Cool. All right, Roxy would like to know if hydrangeas can withstand Canberra frost.
Yes.
Cool.
They'll love it.
Oh, perfect.
But the main thing would be with hydrangeas is a lot of people don't realise hydrangeas don't like hot afternoon sun. So perfect spot for a hydrangea is, and frost is not a problem at all. They grow them all through England and Europe and North America. What they like is they like dappled shade, all day shade, deep shade, and they or a little bit of morning sun and afternoon shade, but they don't like to be out in the hot sun. And then the other three things that they love is water, water, and water. So water, and there are some varieties of hydrangea, and in particular what comes to mind is Sunday Fraise, that given enough water will actually grow in the sun. So, but you really got to pump them with water to keep them sort of up and going good. So Sunday Fraise is one that you could grow in the sun, but you'd have to never let it suffer for water, because it'll quickly frizzle up its flowers and wilt and things like that. So given enough sun, you grow Sunday Fraise out in the sun, or given enough water, you grow it out in the sun, and all the rest of them want a bit of shade.
Yeah.
And frost, no problem.
Cool. Mahesh wants to know, how often should we prune boxleaf privet in this season and coming summer? I planted them in January this year.
Okay. I think until you get to the size hedge that you really want, I would only just tip prune them, and I tip prune them whenever I felt like it. I just nip the tips out and I'll keep them bushing up. And then I did a video the other day, which we haven't put out yet, and it was one of my customers, and she's got a beautiful, really narrow boxleaf privet hedge up the side of her driveway that looks, very narrow garden bed, and this hedge looks really, really good. And I said, and it looks great, and I said, how often do you cut it? And she said twice a year, and it looked terrific. So a lot of people cut a little bit more than that, but twice a year. And that was a lady who's got a hedge looking really, really fabulous, and kept really neat and narrow. So, but right now what you need to do is you're going to be all these big long shoots coming on you at boxleaf privet, and you just need to nip the tips and encourage it to bush up.
Cool. Next question is, best trees along a fence, south facing, full hot afternoon sun, Melbourne, will be a window feature. It was south facing, full hot afternoon sun, they're in Melbourne, and it's going to be a window feature.
Right, okay.
Best trees.
Best trees,
yeah.
And a window feature. I'm thinking what would be really good is silkscreen, Gordonia silkscreen. It's a tree with amazing, beautiful big flowers. You can Google it. So Gordonia silkscreen, Google and have a look at it. Beautiful, luscious, big foliage, but it's as tough as anything. It'll grow in the shade, and it'll take the burning hot sun that you'll get in that situation. So Gordonia silkscreen, and it's a tree that loves to be trimmed and shaped. So you can, and it grows quite tall. I did a video, or we did a video on them.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah, and I think those trees in that video, they weren't very old, and they were 6 or 7 meters tall. So it's a big tree, amazing flowers, beautiful luscious foliage, but as tough as a Photinia or as tough as a gum tree. Quite an amazing tree, and really one that's people don't use much, and it's a highly underrated tree. So Gordonia silkscreen.
Yeah, and again, if you want to see that video, go to our YouTube channel and just search up Gordonia silkscreen, and that will come up. Really, really stunning tree. Next question is, a couple months ago I bought and planted a bare-rooted peach. Flowered 1 month ago, still no leaves.
That's bad.
Can he do can they do anything to help it?
Replace it. That would be the only
Yikes.
thing you could do. Yeah, like basically it had a bit of go in it, but not enough go to leaf up. Now, and that could be a number of reasons. One, the plant could have been faulty to start with, or two, is that peaches are quite sensitive to wet feet. So it was sitting in a swampy, wet bit of ground. It could have got root rot, had enough energy to flower, but not enough energy to leaf up. So basically, no leaves at this point means replace the tree, and yeah. And what we do here is we do a half price changeover for people that lose a plant. It's automatic, so you can come in and buy another one half price. And that way we're sort of sharing the responsibility. So hopefully your nurseryman will do something similar for you.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. All right, Ken's dad put weed killer on their whole front yard soil. How do I make the soil healthy again?
Well, it really depends what sort of weed killer. You'll notice I've mentioned Roundup a few times, and one of the reasons I like Roundup is that when it gets on the soil and finds some calcium, it neutralizes and it just becomes some little bit of salt pollution or something like that, some tiny micronutrients of salt. So there are other types, but Roundup is a fairly common spray, and it's likely that after 48 hours it ain't going to be a problem. But if it was some other type of spray, you might cultivate the ground. Like say it was a 2,4-D type spray or something like that. You might just cultivate the ground and that would dissipate it to such an extent as it wouldn't be a problem anymore.
Yeah.
So depending on the type of thing, so cultivation, deep cultivation could get rid of a surface spray of herbicide that was somehow residual, or if it was Roundup, which is really the common one, just leave it 48 hours and plant.
Okay, cool. Next is I've relocated some established clumping bamboo from a rocky substrate to a clay substrate with potting mix, and it's shriveling and brown. How often do I have to water it till I can stop?
Okay, I've transplanted lots of bamboo, and what you do is you would spray it a couple of times a day with water, but the number one thing to do is to reduce the amount of foliage by 90%. So what happens is that you've severed roots in doing the transplanting, and but if you don't so if you sever the roots, that's what feeds the leaves, then you've got to lighten its load. And I would say at 90%, I've dug and moved lots of bamboo, and it's always goes even with removing 90% of the foliage. And I do that by chopping off whole canes and then taking some remaining canes, might be 1 or 2 or 3 canes left, and then I'll cut them back really short so there's only a little handful of leaves. I still get a bit of dieback on the leaves, and ideally you would spray those leaves several times a day till they stabilise again. So I would spray. So now we don't know quite where you're at, but 90% reduction and then spraying several times a day would be the answer for transplanting bamboo, and you'll find it's good and easy to transplant if you do those things.
Cool. All right, next question is, I've propagated a fig tree for about a year. When should I plant it and how?
Now.
Okay.
Yeah, dig a nice big hole, mix in some good soil, a bit of Osmocote, and you're in business.
Amazing. All right, Mimi would like to know something small that gets full sun. Weeping miniature Japanese maple, okay?
I find that Inaba shidare, which is quite a common weeping maple, is particularly good in hot sun. It's tougher than most other Japanese maples, so I would, if I was in real hot sun, I'd stick with an Inaba shidare.
Cool. How do we ship plants safely?
I guess it's a matter of having them secure, not rolling around, or like it depends. We have a really fabulous range of roses, and people buy roses from almost all over Australia from us, and I like to ship them in the winter when they're dormant, you've got no soil and they're asleep, and you wrap them up with a bit of moist potting mix and some plastic, and that's a really safe way of doing it. So it's really, every different plant's different, but the main thing is not to have to have them contained and not rolling around or too loose when being shipped.
Yep. Next question is, I have a Bigfoot gravilla. How should I look after it? I've planted it in our east-facing garden at the front, and it gets full morning sun until mid-arvo.
It's a big...
Bigfoot gravilla?
Grevillea?
Grevillea, yeah.
Yeah, Bigfoot. I don't know. Okay, so Grevillea, basically, Grevilleas like at least a half a day of sun. They love a bit of native Osmocote, a bit of pine bark mulch around the base, and they have a fairly strong root system, so in summertime you wouldn't water them all the time. You'd give them a really good soak every 10 or 12 days or something like that, and they'd be fine.
Cool. Okay, Alicia would like to know what grows about 6 meters high and would grow behind a lily pilly backyard bliss that is evergreen.
What came to my mind there was a weeping lily pilly, but that'd be kind of boring in a way, having two lily pillies together. 6 meters. Say if you had your backyard bliss there and you needed something like a pencil pine, for instance, would only be very narrow and could be good for putting behind something bushy like a backyard bliss, because if you put two 6 meter bushy things together, you might end up with too much width to get your screen. So, and it's an interesting thing, but I very often use the pencil pine as a screen, and it's not the world's most exciting tree. There's no beautiful flowers, or it's a little bit boring really. But what it is particularly if you're helping older people with their garden and they're wanting a 6 meter tall screen. The problem is that they don't want to go up there and climb up there and trim it in the future. They're not able to. And so what's fabulous about a pencil pine as a screen is that it's tall and narrow, and you never have to trim it. So the neighbours, with the flats next door, are never going to say, look, you've got to get up there and trim those branches. And going up these days, sending somebody up 6 metres in height is very, very expensive and very, very difficult, or going up there yourself is dangerous. So basically, Glauca pencil pines are greatly underrated as a tall, narrow screen, because although they're a little bit boring, they're not as exciting as some other ones, they don't involve you in maintenance, difficult or expensive maintenance down the track. So tall and skinny, and that could be the one I might use, Glauca pencil pine.
Yep. What kind of plants can I have inside that are safe for my cat?
Being a nurseryman, I tend to have bought everything inside, and I've had cats most of my life, and I've never had a problem with a plant and a cat, and I've just put everything without regard. And somehow I think cats are really, really smart, and when they want to suicide they might eat something, but the rest of the time they never seem to eat anything poisonous.
Oh God.
So it's probably only when your cat wants to go that he'll eat something poisonous.
9 lives and all that.
Yeah, but I've never had a cat. I've never had a problem with a cat, and I've had up to 3 cats at a time, and I've never had a problem with a cat eating the wide range of plants that I put in and around my house.
Cool. Next question is from Chloe. What plants can I grow to attract possums to a certain area?
Do you know, they seem to love citrus. You'd think it was a bit strongly flavoured for them, and they're crazy about roses. So people seem to have the worst problem, and ornamental pears. They love ornamental pears. So they're probably, if you've tasted them, they've probably got a bit of flavour and sweetness to them. So, and if you had possums in your area and you were to combine roses, ornamental pears, and citrus all together, you'd probably get all the possums in the district coming across.
Amazing. Jim, we do have Australian native plants. We got a massive section of native plants, so I'll just answer that one.
It's like, if you go out the back, it's like there's a little native nursery out there. It's about 40 metres long and about 5 metres wide, and it's absolutely jam-packed with natives. We've made it kind of like a separate nursery.
Yeah.
And you'll find quite a good range of natives, as good as any pure native nursery.
Yeah. What roses are more resistant to disease? I'm struggling with black spot as an organic gardener.
Carpet roses are particularly good, and iceberg roses. And what's good is that these days you can get light pink, strong pink, and burgundy iceberg. So that gives you some colours, and they are very, very disease resistant. And then also what you could do, what you could do is you could make up, the black spots is a fungus, and you can make your own fungicide. If you Google and have a look, Bordeaux mixture is the oldest fungicide used by man, and it was invented hundreds of years ago in Bordeaux in France. and was used to combat fungus on the leaves of grapes. But you've got to mix it up fresh, but it's a very simple little thing. You Google how to do it and mix up Bordeaux, and I'm sure that's not a nasty or terrible chemical, and it's very effective against fungus. So, and that could broaden the range of roses that you can deal with.
Yeah. What does plum wine magnolia need to thrive, and can it live in a pot? It's their favorite flower.
Port wine, is it port wine?
They said plum wine, but let's assume it's port wine.
Okay, so port wine. What's interesting about port wine magnolia is that there's 2 magnolias that are called port wine, and that's the reason why people have Latin names, to unconfuse that sort of problem. But you've got your port wine magnolia that has, it's a deciduous magnolia, it has dark purple candle sort of flowers like this, really deep purple, the closest you'll get to black in a magnolia. And so you've got your port wine magnolia that's like that, and then you've got the other port wine magnolia, which is an evergreen one that has little mauvey purple flowers on it, and flowers all through the summer, and gives off the most amazing fragrance, which is it's like a sweet bubblegum fragrance. So now what's the question about? So they're the 2 different port wine magnolias.
They were asking, what does it need to thrive, and can it live in a pot? Okay,
so your evergreen one with the little leaves and the little purple fragrant flowers loves a pot. And if you put a bit of dolomite lime on it once a year, Osmocote it every couple of months, keep it well watered, it will absolutely thrive and do fabulously in a pot. And your other port wine magnolia, the one with the purple candle flowers, would much rather be out in the garden than in a pot.
Yeah. Roxy would like to know, is morning sun only enough sun for a pink pixie?
Pixie. Yeah.
Okay.
That'll do fine with just morning sun.
Great. Next question is, I've got lily-pilly neighbours begone out the back in a row, and most are really thriving, but a random 1 or 2 are struggling. Is that an issue with the plant, soil, spot?
You can have a poke around. Like often you'll see that one plant that's not doing well, and you dig there and you find the soil's really hard, or there's something wrong, and that's got a bit of concrete under the ground or something it's sitting on. But I've noticed with Neighbours Begone is that most of them are grown from seed, and you get the odd sort of deviant kind of one that's no good. It might only be 1 in 50, and I found with that odd it'll have a different leaf and it won't really grow, and the best thing you do is turf it and get another one. So the real answer to that question is have a dig, make sure there's nothing wrong there. If there's nothing wrong there, turf it and get another one.
Cool. What can I plant around the pool to create tropical that complies with the non-climbable?
Okay, that's an interesting question. And I had an inspection, and I had tiger grass, and I thought they'd tell me to rip it out. But that passed. So tiger grass is a good one, and I've had customers pass with giant birds of paradise and Xanadu's, but basically it's all things that don't really have a trunk or anything like that. So 3 things that I would recommend would be Xanadu, giant bird of paradise, and tiger grass for a bit of height, and fullness that people can't climb.
Yeah. I'm probably going to get the pronunciation wrong, but someone would like to know the care for Brachychidon rupestris.
Right, okay. So that's a tree that's ultimately going to grow fairly big. The sort of country it comes from, it'll tend to have nice, deep, loamy sort of soil. So if you dig a nice big hole, mix a bit of good loose soil through it, loves its fertiliser and loves summer water, really loves summer water, and it'll grow. Given in summertime, if you gave it regular fertiliser and had it dug into nice, loose, deep soil, and you can do that by just digging deep in the clay and mixing loose, potting mix or something like that through it, it'll grow quite quickly.
Cool. I'm going to get the name of this also wrong, but some advice for planting native Echinacea would be appreciated.
Okay,
yep.
Right. So Echinacea, is that an acacia?
And the native Echinacea, let me look it up. It is coneflower.
Oh, right, okay, so no worries. what I found with them is they love hot sun. They like nice deep loose soil. So what I would do is, if I was planting one, I'd dig a big hole, mix lots of potting mix through it, have lovely loose deep soil, and use a little bit of Osmocote or something, give it a good feed and plenty of summer water and a nice sunny spot, and
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
Awesome. We are going to start rounding up soon, so I'm going to ask just 3 more questions and then we're going to call it for today's live. But we do these every week, so if we didn't get to your question today, just come again next week, 12 p.m, whatever platform you're on. We are a first come, first served. Like, I pretty much just read the comments. Well, I do read them in order between the different platforms. So if you come earlier, your question is pretty much guaranteed to be answered. So the third last question is, I have an empty planter box that I want to fill with cheap, colourful flowers. What do you recommend?
If it was in a hot sunny spot, I reckon Calabracia would be fabulous. And the only thing wrong with that, if you put them in right now and keep them well watered and fertilised, you'll have an amazing display from now till about the end of May. And then they'll either sort of go dormant or they can even die sometimes. But nothing looks better in a pot than well watered and well fertilised Calabracia. Really beautiful.
Yeah. Grace would like to know, what is a good ground filler? They live on mid-north coast New South Wales. Needs to be sturdy as they have 2 dogs.
Right, okay. So really sturdy and with 2 dogs. I reckon one of your Myoporums, like a Urena or something like that. Yeah, the thing is that, or as we mentioned before, your Carpogrotus. So Carpogrotus or Myoporum Urena would be both excellent choices. But you are going to have to keep the dogs off till you got a bit of, cover with them. So if you fenced, what you could do is, our lawn sort of went bald from having 2 dogs on it, and what my partner did was she fenced off sections of it and planted kikuyu, and then as it became good, she put the dogs back on that, and then took another bare section and fixed that up. So if you had dogs, you could do something like Carpogrotus or the Myoporum Urena, and you could do it in stages so that and once you had a good thick cover of those things, they could take a little bit of dog traffic.
Yeah. Last question for today is from Roxy. Is it too late to plant a new garden now, or should I wait until autumn?
If you're in Melbourne, Melbourne is an interesting place. There's some better times for planting and some worse times for planting, but the best time for planting is now, because what it is in Melbourne, we don't have too hot, like the heat that we have in summer is fairly brief, and the cold in winter in Melbourne is not bad at all. So where, say in Texas, northern Texas, it'll freeze solid in the winter, and be nearly 40 degrees every day in the summer, and people only, the nurseries are only open in springtime. So here we're in a lucky place, and it's one of the reasons why we have such a fabulous thriving nursery industry. Is in Melbourne there is not one day of the year that's not good for planting. Every single day of the year you can plant, and the reason why now is a good time is that basically plants love the summer heat as long as they've got water and fertilizer. So if you plant now, you've got 3 or 4 months of great growing ahead of you, and if you plant in autumn, that's when plants grow their roots. And so what happens in autumn planting will mean that you have really good root development, and next spring you'll have good growth. But basically, if you delay your planting, you're delaying the establishment of your plant, because in Melbourne it's 365 days a year, great for planting, and it's a unique place. I think there's only 1 or 2 other places in the world that's so friendly for planting every day of the year. And a lot of people don't like the idea of planting in summer, because in the old days people didn't have hoses or water or irrigation systems and things like that, and plants do need water in the summer. And I remember being a little kid and having to carry big heavy watering cans to newly planted plants in summer, and it was a bit of a pain. But these days you haven't got those problems, so I think every day is a good day, and now's the best time.
Yeah, great. All right, well that wraps up our live, and yes, these lives are regular. There was just a question there. So we do this every week, Monday 12 p.m, whatever platform you're on. We're on a couple different platforms. So whatever you prefer most, you can just keep coming there. But yeah, we do this every Monday. We're going to keep doing it every Monday until, I don't know, some terrible disaster happens or something goes. We do sometimes do another live in the week, which is more kind of about a specific topic. We haven't had the time to do them in a couple of weeks, but we might start doing them again. We'll see how it goes. Definitely won't be this week, but keep an eye on our socials, follow us. We always post there if anything is happening, and of course we post our usual educational content and all of that. But for now, I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their Monday, and hopefully we will see you next week. Bye everyone.
In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello, show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant, in every shade and room, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello, plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant, in every shade and room, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello.